you guys have been following along for a while, you see we have a 78 Ford pickup truck here that we are doing a Cummins conversion on. It's actually more like a body swap, so it's a second generation Dodge frame and axles that we are putting a 78 Ford body onto. We wanted to do something special for Don, so we reached out to the guys over at AirDog and they sponsored today's video and sponsored Don a kit. This is an AirDog 165 5G. This is the newest technology out on the market when it comes to lift pump, and there's nothing else out there that can compare as far as quality, but not only the technology that they're basically putting into these new systems. Once again, huge shout out to the guys over AirDog for sponsoring today's video and sponsoring Don Schrader's Fummins build. If you guys want to see more on the AirDog install, wait until later in the video. We're gonna put this thing on. Alright guys, to start today's video off, we're going to do a time-lapse video of the 6.7 Ford, pulling the cab up on it, do a turbocharger, oil pan, transmission lines, and some new body mounts. Bailey's already got started on it down there. He is draining the coolant out of it. Sounds like he's been working on getting some of the cab bolts out. This is a high mileage truck. It came in for a turbo failure initially. Talked with the customer and he wanted to do some other stuff on it. So we are getting started on that. All right guys, wrapping up an inspection on this LBZ. Our turbo vanes are stuck. It needs upper ball joints on both sides with control arms. We need driver's side wheel hub bearing assembly, 6 glow plugs. It's got a low rail pressure code, so I'm gonna recommend an AirDog and a race plug. And then it needs batteries. I don't think they're going to want to fix all this stuff, but I'm going to go ahead and put it all together and show them what they'd be spending if they wanted to. It's like these glow plugs. There's no way that glow plug, no matter how good you are, guys. I don't know if you can see it, but you're not going to get it out. It's corroded really bad. It's stuck. It's not going to come out. So I'm not, unless they are willing to go as far as pulling cylinder heads on the engine, I won't even offer doing the glow plugs. Put a quote on this, try and get in contact with the customer, see what they want to do, give my recommendation, what I would do. I think these trucks are hard to find. It's not in terrible shape. Personally, I would probably fix it from a business standpoint, but we'll see what they say. Everyone's different. They may be completely sold on the idea of just getting rid of it and moving on to something else. All right guys, after doing an inspection on the truck and talking with the customer, they are not really interested in doing any of the repairs. Given the age of the truck, the turbocharger replacement probably not as affordable as they thought it was going to be, but I know how it's going to go. Do a lot of these, so for now, customers declining the repair and they're actually coming to pick it up. So that just kind of shows you sometimes what we'll go through as far as dealing with customers and trying to help them make the best decisions with their vehicles, so that way they can, you know, trying to help them make the best decision with their vehicles. And ultimately they just decided that they didn't want to do any repairs on the vehicle right now, so we will just basically close this thing up, get it out of here, and move on to the next one, guys. Alright guys, they got the cab up on the 6.7 Power Stroke, and now I'm going to jump back over to this older truck working on this Fummins again, and I'm going to start sticking this transmission in the truck finally. I want to get this transmission in and on a mount, that way I can figure out where my engine is actually going to sit, and I'll know where my shifter is permanently going to be. It's not really that bad to get this tranny in this thing, but it's not super tall right now, so I kind of got to get creative in how I get it underneath the frame. Let's see what happens. transmission is installed in the truck. As you can see, we had some problems there. I noticed that it was missing the dowels. So it's actually a really good thing we took this transmission out, because with it not having the dowels, it's not perfectly centered, and that'll put premature wear on the bearings, and he would have eventually had a failure. So it's a good thing we pulled the transmission out and did all this. If you guys don't know why we pulled it out, initially this truck came in with the drivetrain somewhat there, and it was set up for a GM transfer case, etc., etc. So we pulled the transmission out to convert it over to a Dodge, and that's why we're just now sticking it back in. I actually know exactly where my engine's gonna sit. I've been holding off on doing anything up front here due to the fact that I didn't know where my transmission, like I haven't really done anything to the engine yet until we got that done, because I need to know where it's gonna sit. We got some brake lines roughly sitting in there. You guys can see we have the steering shaft already made. And guys, we don't have hardly any room up here for a radiator, so it's gonna require an enormous amount of trimming. For us to center the body and the wheels where we wanted them, I think they're 1 inch back, so that way we can put +1 control arms on it, is what we came up with. That's just really how the engine sits. A lot of guys will probably move the body farther up, but then you're gonna have to run like a +3 control arm to push that out. It's gonna make getting the push rods out hard, because they're gonna be buried in the cowl. As far as radiators go, I have 2 over here to choose from. So far, I'm gonna get more. Have a 6-liter radiator, which is very narrow, very tall, and very thick. And then you have the Dodge, which is somewhat thick, very wide, but not as tall. Ultimately, I would love to just use a Dodge radiator due to the fact that they fill from the top. This will require a degas bottle, but I don't think with the trimming that's gonna be required, we're gonna be able to fit the 2nd gen one in there. It's gonna require a lot of trimming on the cross member. So yeah, as far as intercooler goes, right now I'm leaning on 4th gen style. That's the angled one to go up front here. We'll build a little scoop for it. I think that'll look good. So we've got everything laid out here, guys, from left to right, and we're gonna go through this real quick, real short, and real sweet. I'm a big believer in less is sometimes more, and these kits are super easy to put on, and that's the point of it. This isn't something that we want you guys to have to spend all day on doing on your truck. You know, if you're gonna install it yourself, they're very user-friendly. You can put them on the driveway, and the amount of benefits you're gonna gain, I would say value for dollar, this is the best upgrade you can put on a diesel truck, hands down. There's no doubt about it. So left to right, we have hardware and fittings, push lock fittings. We have 20 foot of 1/2 inch hose. We have a wiring harness. We have bracketry. We have extra O-rings. You keep these in the glove box of the truck. Say 2 years down the road, you have an O-ring develop a leak. Well, guess what? They've already thought about you in the future, and they've got you supplied with those. Bracketry is coated very nicely. It sandwiches the frame. We'll show you guys a little bit more of that here in a second. We have a little piece of 3/8 hose, or 5/16 hose. This is for some of the P-pump stuff that we have going on this Fummins, as well as the pump itself, the bracket that cradles the pump. It comes with a draw straw setup, as you can see here. We will not be using the draw straw. We are going to use AirDog sump. Check these things out. They are relatively new. They've been out for a while now, but before they had a design that was basically a 10-bolt style pump or sump that you would have to put in. Now they switched it to a single 1-hole design. It's super easy to use, has a feed in return. Let's jump over here and do this AirDog install. Now that this is a custom build, we are not going to use some of the parts supplied. For one, these brackets are not going to work for where I'm going to want to put this pump. Generally, these brackets would go on the frame rail, and on this regular cab there is plenty of room down here to do it. They sandwich both sides of the frame rail. Given this is a custom build, it's going to have a flat bed on it. We're going to have no interference issues with the bed. I'm going to use a couple of these holes here and drill and mount our bracket that is supplied. It's like a poly bracket, super hard plastic. I'm going to through bolt this through the frame and mount the AirDog pump itself on this bracket right to the frame rail, just like that. So first thing we're going to do here, I went ahead and centered in between these two mounts and figured out where my pump's going to be. It's roughly sitting, I had it just basically ballparked where it's going to sit. If I drill my holes, had this set up against here, used this as a template to mark my holes to drill. The only thing I need to be careful of, guys, is right behind here are some brake lines, and then I don't want to go too far and punk punch a hole in that fuel tank. All right, guys, we're gonna start punching some holes inside of this frame. Like I said, we gotta be extra careful not to go through the side of the frame and into a brake line or something of that nature. I'm actually gonna set my drill bit deep as I can put it in the truck. Again, trying to reach down, make sure I don't drill a hole through anything. That's what I was afraid of. Can't really reach it though. See if we can get the logo to line up right. Oh. One hand in it. There we go. Just like that, girls. She's mounted. And we've got these fittings we gotta stick in real quick. You don't want to get these super tight. I mean, just snugging them up is all you need, guys. It's an O-ring fitting. I used to be a warranty technician at AirDog, and that was like one of the most common things is people over tightening these fittings because they just simply don't know. Like this right here, look, it's tight enough. Thing's never gonna leak. Fittings are installed. I'll go over this real quick with you guys in case you do not know. That way you know. They are labeled regardless, but basically your fuel is gonna go into the pump on this side. This is the inlet, so this needs to be hooked to your tank, to your diesel source. This is the return. Whatever the pump doesn't use, it's gonna recirculate in here and feed out through this return, as well as with all of the air in it. That's part of what this thing does, is it removes air from the fuel. So once it removes the air, it's gonna return it back to the tank, and then this is to the engine. It's down to 2 micron, as you guys can see, and then we will go up to the engine. Mounting it this way, obviously I'm gonna have some fittings and either some 90s or some loops going each direction. Generally, you know, I would flip this around, but I want this regulator to be mounted, and I really want this truck to look good and show off the parts that it has on it. So I'm gonna mount it with the regular out, that way we have the logo there, data tag and everything, and you can see the pump. Initially, this is a little tricky of a job when the sitting unit is in the truck, because you gotta know where it goes, so that way you don't drill into the bottom of it or interfere with the level sensor. Basically want to find a good flat part of the tank and make sure there's no baffles in it as well. Some tanks have baffles in them. My recommendation, if you don't know where to drill a hole, is to just literally watch sump installation videos on YouTube. Find someone that has the same type of vehicle that you have with the same fuel tank, and there's a lot of different variations out there, so I know it's kind of difficult, but just find out where they put theirs and make sure they're successful in their video. But you basically need a 2-inch hole saw. Make sure it's got a centering bit on it, and then try to do it with one hand without breaking my hand. There we have it. Now, like I said, you got a sitting unit in here and you can't stick your hand in that tank. Be careful not to lose this little piece. A lot of times it sticks in the drill bit, or in the hole saw bit. Then we got to go through and clean all this little trash that gets built up from cutting on it. It's inevitable, it's going to happen. Obviously, I've already drained the fuel out of this. If you haven't drained the fuel, if you're doing this on a truck and it's still got fuel in it, you're going to want to drill your pilot hole, remove your fuel filler cap, and then just let it drain into a pan or whatever. If you plan to reuse the diesel, make sure it's something clean, because you're gonna put something back in the truck, but you have to drain it to do this, guys. There's no other way around it. Holes drilled in the tank. This part here goes to the bottom, and they have cutouts here so the fuel can flow into the feed side of the sump. There's a feed and a return side. Make sure you use the right side, guys. One side's bigger, it's gonna allow fuel to enter the cavity faster. Inside of the tank, this goes on the bottom. It's got 2 O-rings. double O-ring design, which is really nice if you've ever had to deal with a sump leaking. Luckily I haven't had too many leak. And then you put this bolt in right here and put the sealing washer. It literally goes on the bolt like so. Of course my phone's ringing. Alright guys, just got off the phone with a customer who's actually already here. I didn't even realize that he was already here. Dropping off a 6-liter 2007 with a occasional no start condition. We're gonna pull it in the shop here before we shut it off, so we don't have to mess with moving it if it won't start or waiting for it to cool off. But I have a pretty good idea what's going on. Check the codes on it, and we'll do a test real quick, see if we can find a high pressure oil leak on it. Gentlemen, we've got the man himself, Mr. Mason Young, helping out today. Helping keep the business afloat. What do you think, Mason? What's new in life?
Nothing.
Nothing. See, the man of very few words.
That mountain moves in a box.
Oh, it was what? Mason, do you want to shout yourself out in the video or anything? Put your OF link in? No? Gosh, trying to get these guys to be social is like so difficult. They'll yap and yap and yap, but as soon as I turn the camera on, we get super shy. We got to work on that with these guys. Get some personality on the channel, you know? There's not a torque spec on this. I'm sure it's because every tank is going to be a little different in how it crushes against the tank, the O-rings to seal. We pointed it straight out the side, and we will route our lines accordingly. Fittings, I'm going to be using both are push lock style, just one's plastic and one is metal. Going into the sump, it's going to be a metal quick connect fitting. So put a little bit of oil on it. I'm just going to demonstrate on one of these guys so you can see how to assemble the hoses. Make sure you get it good and coated over the whole thing, and press down on a flat surface. Got that sealed, so we'll route this from the sump to our feed and return. Feed and return lines are complete. Just got to get these guys zip tied up real nice. Once again, guys, could have done a 90 here on the suction side of the pump. If you can avoid using a 90-degree fitting, do so. It's just one of those deals where it's going to flow just slightly better. A 90-degree fitting is equivalent to 6 foot of hose in straight form. So this is going to look good when it's zip tied up real good. As far as our feed fitting goes, we'll probably run a 90 on the feed. It's going to loop back under, and then I'm going to try and come up with some type of bracketry to mount it on either the inside or the outside of the frame rail. I do not know yet. Finishing up the day here and going to close this video out for you guys. 6-liter that we just got in today. Took for a drive. Got a crankshaft position sensor code. I don't think we have a high pressure oil leak. I'm going to check it again tomorrow. Try to start it when it's cold. See how it starts. Crankshaft position sensor code. Turbo under boost code. We just checked it for boost leaks. I drove it. It does seem a little low on power, but it's not terrible. Overall, everything looks pretty decent on it, but it is a stock head bolt truck, so we're going to obviously talk to him about, you know, 6.0 stuff and kind of, we'll see what all we get into and try to walk him through the process of that and see what all he wants to do there. AirDog is on there with the feed and return mounted. Tranny's in. They got the oil pan off this 6.7 up here. Jacked it up. Got it removed. I'm gonna wrap up in this video, guys. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, let us know what you think, and we will see you guys on the next video.